Today's video was brought to you by Aniba.com. Aniba.com is a digital marketplace with over 20,000 digital products. And with an ever-expanding library, it's the go-to point for all your gaming needs. Aniba will bring you the hottest deals in the market on titles new or old, and with an excellent Trustpilot score, you can buy with confidence. So whether you play on Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox or PC, you're sure to find something that suits your needs. Navigation of the website is very easy. Search via operating system, game genre and region. You can also create your own wish list and grab those deals at a later time. Aniba is here to help with product activation, payment, product delivery and other issues should the need arise with their 24/7 live support. To save some money and grab a great deal with Aniba.com. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'll be showing off just a few changes I've made to my system and a few upgrades I've made over the last few days. Starting with the Asus ROG Maximus Z790 Apex Encore motherboard. Fantastic motherboard, pretty pricey, but it gives you a really good chance of running high speed DDR5, and it has some really impressive overclocking features. One being the safe mode button, an absolute godsend when it comes to tuning RAM. I also picked up the G.Skill DDR5 Trident Z RGB 48GB kit, and this is a 7200MHz kit running at CL36 46 46 115 at 1.35 volts. You can see the model number there if you're interested. This is 48GB of RAM, just a little bit of an upgrade from the 32GB configuration I was running before, just to kind of give myself a little bit of room to breathe when I'm making these massive 8K projects or dual layer projects. When I'm making comparison videos, you do use quite a lot of RAM, so it's quite useful. And finally, my freshly minted Intel i9 14900KS. You see the little special edition badge there in the bottom left hand corner. Very pricey CPU, not for everyone, definitely just for enthusiasts and for those who want to squeeze every last drop of performance from the Raptor Lake and Z790 platform. This of course is going to be the last CPU for this socket 1700, so if you got a Z690 board, Z790 board, this is the final offering from Intel. You're going to need some beastly cooling as well to tame this beast, but it's a decent send-off for the LGA socket 1700 and Z790 chipset, in my opinion. 6.2GHz boost clock and 5.9GHz all core out the box is pretty impressive. You're just going to need a hell of a cooler, and saying that, I'm going to show you what I'm using. So this is my main system. I'm using an EK water block. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it really does perform well, and this goes out to an external radiator, which I'll show you in a moment. I'm also using, of course, a G.Skill 48GB kit that I just showed you a moment ago. Interesting as well is that you get a kind of enclosure that looks like a large memory stick, but you can actually mount two NVMe SSDs inside, and then it goes into what looks like a memory slot, but it's not. And then you can get access to two of your drives, which I have my Western Digital SN85 8050X 2TB, and I've got my Samsung 980 Pro in there, and I've got another two Western Digital SN85X 2TB as well. So I've got about 7TB of storage. RTX 4060 there, two 120mm fans at the bottom taking air in, 1200 watt Corsair AX Gold power supply, 140mm fans, three of them at the top taking air out, so those acts as exhaust, and another 140mm at the back acting as an exhaust. Now I'll show you, there's also three 120s at the front as well. Now this is my cooling solution, or the other part of it. I'm using the Mora 420 LT Black with 8 200mm fans. So this is 4 pulling air through, and there's another 4 behind pushing air through, so it's a push-pull configuration. This is the EK-D5 dual pump combination. That's two D5 pumps. Now it's great because it adds a little bit of extra head pressure with the second pump, and if one does die for any reason, the system can operate with one pump, so it acts as a bit of a redundancy. As you can see, I'm using quick disconnects as well, just to make sure when it comes to changing things, it's a lot easier. I don't have to bleed the radiator every time. All you need a very, very small reservoir. Because the radiator is so big, it can hold quite a lot of water, so you don't really need a big reservoir. And as you can see, there's a liquid temperature monitor there, 24 degrees liquid temperature at the moment. And this is what really does keep things cool, especially with a 14900KS that can pull over 400 watt. Okay guys, so let's start off with my BIOS settings. I am using BIOS version 1002, and this was available on the 21st of February 2024. Of course, if you're using another manufacturer other than Asus, just get the latest, just to make sure you have the best compatibility with this latest CPU. Okay, so let's start off with the Extreme Tweaker tab. I enabled XMP, however, of course, I've made my own custom settings. I left BCLK and PCIe frequency at 100. You don't really want to mess with that. Drives will start disappearing and you can damage stuff, so just leave that at 100. When it comes to the Asus multi-core enhancement, I've just enabled it to remove all limits. If you're having issues with temperature and keeping things cool, you do have an option where you can remove all limits but limit it to 90°, so that could be useful for yourself if you're having issues with keeping things cool. Now everything else is at auto, however I put the actual memory speed to 8533, so 8533 megahertz. That's the most I could get. 8600 megahertz was just a little bit out of my reach for now. I haven't found a way to stabilize that. It seems to error once or twice in TM5, but this is completely stable. Now when it comes to the actual core ratio, the 14900KS only has 2 cores that boost to 6.2 gigahertz. But if you want to overclock, the best thing to do is go to by core usage, set the boost clock to the highest for the first 2 cores. So I've put it to 6.3 gigahertz, just 0.1 over the stock, and the rest to 5.9. That is the all core overclock for the chip out of the box, which is pretty surprising. Now what you want to do as well is go to specific performance core, and you can make sure that you can choose the specific cores you wish to boost to 6.3. If you pay attention to the left hand side, your best cores will have a star next to them. So core 6 and core 7 both have a star next to them, which is your best cores. So make sure you have them boost to 6.3 and all the rest to 5.9. If you want to, of course, do a little bit of tweaking with the voltage to stabilize higher clock speeds, you can, but for now I've left everything to auto. Let's get out of the specific performance core. When it comes to the E cores, I've synced all cores to 4.6 gigahertz. Out of the box, this comes at 4.5, so not a massive increase, but you don't want to put too much on the heavy load on this chip because it gets really, really hot. When it comes to specific efficiency core settings, I literally left that at auto because I didn't customize that. I just all core 4.6 is fine for me. AVX is just auto as well. There's nothing there. You can make sure that AVX workloads run and really, you can control the clock speeds that your system runs at while under AVX workload. So that's something, it's up to you really. I'll show my timings for my RAM in a moment. This is a very, very important setting. DG plus VRM. Set your load line calibration to level 6 if you have an Asus board. If you have something like an MSI board, level 3 would probably be best, because depending on your manufacturer, they kind of flip it around. Level 6 offers a nice amount of V-droop and kind of takes the edge off of the amount of power going through the chip, because if you leave this to auto, it could kind of overshoot it quite a bit and you just basically soaking your chip in a lot of excess heat, which it doesn't need. CPU current capability, I've put that to 140%. Basically just gives you full access to the VRMs and you just have everything at your disposal. And that is it for the DG VRM section. let's go down to my RAM and cache. I was actually pretty surprised I was able to get the cache stable at 52. Now my 13900K that I previously owned was only able to go to 50, so 0.2 gigahertz increase on that, which is nice to see. And this works hand in hand with your RAM speed, so it's definitely worth tuning. Now when it comes to the actual voltage of the chip, I've just left this at auto. I've done literally nothing to it. This motherboard seems to do a great job of giving your CPU what it needs by itself. It's just the load line calibration you want to adjust, because it kind of takes a few volts off and keeps the temps in gives it a bit of a breather, because you don't want to push 400 watts through this thing. It's going to be very, very hard to cool. System agent voltage, I put this to 1.25. At the box is 1.23, but you may find system agent voltage can help with stabilizing high clock, high RAM speed. So, you know, your mileage may vary. You may need more, you may need less. Just experiment with that. When it comes to the actual voltage for the RAM, I went with 1.47. Nothing too crazy. Try to keep things under 1.5 volts. The G.Skill are known to get pretty hot. I've only observed these going up to 54 degrees, but however, I do have the Encore fan blowing on them, so that kind of keeps things in check. If you don't have the fan, you may not be able to get away with running this clock speed with this voltage. You may need to drop off a little bit, but hey, if you got this motherboard, definitely install that fan. It really, really does help. Now in advanced memory voltages, I didn't do anything. As you can see, my memory controller voltage is 1.385 out the box. Some people change this to 1.4 if necessary, but I've just left it at auto. I'm pretty content with 8533 megahertz, to be honest. Now I did say I'll go back to my timings. I haven't done too much with the secondaries. I've just got into it a little bit, but I'll show you my primaries and what I've been able to achieve. So 40, 52, 52, 52, and 84 on the TRAS. Now the TRAS was originally at 1.31. I've got this down to 84. I also put the TREFI to 130,000. This, I think, originally was 3,700 or something very, very low. This does increase the heat quite a lot. So this is definitely the most impactful setting out of the secondaries. So this will improve your copy speed. This will improve your latency. It's a very, very beneficial setting, but also provides a lot of heat. So you need to check if you can keep it stable. I would start off at 65,000 and work your way up. Now, when it comes to TRTP, I've got this to 12, and the TFAW, I've got this to 16. I think this was previously 32. And the TCKE, I've got that down to 10. And that's about as much as I've done with the secondary. Still a bit of work for me to do, but it's a lot of trial and error. It's so tedious. I really, really hate tuning RAM, but it's something you need to do if you want to get the most out of these CPUs, because they respond well to tuned RAM. So I think that is everything that I needed to show you guys. Oh yeah, there is one more thing. You guys want to know about my SB scores. If you go to AI features, you'll see that the SB score for the P cores are 119. I think 120 is the highest, so this is actually pretty good. For the E cores is 82, and for the memory controller, the MCSP, is 82. You do need to tell the motherboard to acquire this. It will do like a boot cycle, and it will test what your memory controller can handle, and then it will give you a ranking. This is much better than my 13900K, which was 67. And there is one more setting I need to show you. This is very important. If you find that your CPU is not boosting, then go all the way down to the bottom, and then you will see CPU power management control. You want to click that, and then you'll see all of your speed step options and C state options. You need to enable your C states. I know people would advise that Enabling this can cause instability, but without these enabled, you will not turbo. You need these enabled, so make sure your C states are enabled, or you can forget about using your boost claw to the maximum. So that is pretty much it. I'm gonna go back to my desktop now and get into some benchmarks. Okay guys, so I'm at my desktop now. I'm just gonna get started with bringing up core temp so you guys can see temperature, voltage, power draw, and I'll make sure this is always on top so you guys can see this all the time depending on what I'm doing. Let's kind of take care of the elephant in the room. Does your CPU boost to the speeds advertised? Now of course I've overclocked the boost clock to 6.3. You want to see if that actually happens. So I'm using HW Info 64 here. This will show you your minimum, your maximum, and your current boost clock. If I was to open something like CPU Z, and I'll run the bench, which is a multi-bench and a single threaded bench, it should pretty much show you what my boost clocks are. So I'll go ahead and do that now. You can also see your memory and the speed you're running. So you can see I'm running 52 on the cache, 4266, you times it by 2 because it's double data RAM, and you'll get the 8533 that I'm running. So if you go to bench, you can just run the benchmark. You can see you run a multi, it's doing 18,160 at the moment, which is pretty decent. You can see it's holding 5.9 for, and then when it comes to the single, you can see it has boosted at some point to 6.3. Now this would be a lot higher. This would be in like the thousands if I didn't have all of this up, but I'm just trying to demonstrate something here. So if you have a look at the cores, you can see that core 6 boosted to 6.3 gigahertz. So it does actually boost to that advertised boost clock, so it does work. Let's move on. Now if I was to bring up something a little bit more heavy like Cinebench R23, run the multi bench, it should put the CPU under quite a heavy load. So you can see 350 watt, but as you can see my Mora not really struggling. Max core hitting around 86 degrees, well under control. And because I'm using low line calibration 6, I'm not pulling that 400 watt, and I'm still getting a decent CPU multi-score of 43,403. So that's pretty decent. I will do some single core scores later. I'll like post a link in the description box or pinned comment or something. You guys can check it out. This takes far too long. For the interest of time, I'm just going to move on. For those who are interested, I may as well run Cinebench R20. It's the same thing basically, just a slightly different. So if we run the multi, she uses a similar amount of volts. So 348, just slightly under Cinebench R23. As you can see, temps are really under control. The Mora 420 LT doing a great job. You can see our last two scores beat the Intel Xeon Platinum 8168 CPU, and this CPU is like a very high threaded CPU, and the fact that the 14900K can beat a 48 core 96 thread processor just shows you what kind of a beast it is. Again, I'll show you guys the single core score in the pinned comment, and I'll like put a link to a picture or something. If we were to move on to something like Geekbench 6, it's quite of a popular one. It's kind of like a everyday kind of suite. It will run like office tasks, like normal production, or just general create media type creation tools, productivity workloads, all of these things. It will just give you a score at the end, both single and multi. So I'll run that now. This is quite a long test. So for the interest of time, I am going to speed this up. Okay, this thing's just finished now. Just going to minimize this so it gives you Let's see a single core score on a multi, so it scored 3,508 and 2,500 or 25,385 on a multi, so not too bad. Also gives you a bit more information about the system. You can see I'm running 8533 megahertz RAM. It will give you some breakdowns on the actual specific tests if you wish. I can also provide you a link to these if you want to check this out in more detail. I usually get a little bit higher than this, but again, I'll provide you guys the links to everything. I like to try and be as transparent as possible. I'm not going to run Geekbench 5 because it's pretty much just the same thing. But we can run Intel XTU. I think this has a benchmark in it as well. So I'll fire that up. So because this chip's so new, there isn't too much benchmarks and data on the net. So I thought I'd provide you guys just what to expect from near stock 14900KS. There's still a lot more tweaking for me to do. Just going to jump into the benchmark and just run that. Should get a little bit of a score. Should really have 4 temp up so you guys can see what's going on. So 325 watts being drawn here. But again, no issue for my cooling solution. It does say invalid here, but really it just says very high frequency detected without FLLOC mode enabled in BIOS. This can result in misreported frequencies. Your benchmark score is valid, but the frequency result will not be saved. So if you're like trying to do hardware but high scores or something, this wouldn't be, it wouldn't qualify. So, but it is a legit result. So just wanted to make that clear. I can usually get into the 1400s for this, but sometimes it will be down or up. Of course, I'm running extra stuff in the background just to demonstrate things. These are not my high scores, but that's okay. So let's close down Intel XTU. Let's run IDA 64. I'm sure you guys want to see how my memory gets on. Again, there's still quite a lot of work for me to do with the secondaries, but it's quite a tedious task to do all the trial and error with the secondaries. It takes a long time. So this is about as best as I can do for now. Again, this is another very, very long test. So I'm going to speed this up for the interest of time. But while I'm here, you can see your cache speed at 52 gigahertz. And you can see your memory speed. Obviously, this is double data RAM, so you times this by 2, you get 8533. Your clock speed, it only shows your Encore, doesn't show your boost, so 5.9. You can see I'm running the front side bus at 100 megahertz and BCLK. None of that's been tweaked. Shows your motherboard name, your BIOS version. It's very, very transparent. You can't really hide anything from IDA. If you're someone that's trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, you'll get found out. So yeah, I'll come back with the results as this takes pretty long. So as you can see, guys, this is the end result, and not too shabby. You can see the throughput's pretty high, 133 for the read, 130 for the write, 127 for the copy, and 53 for the latency. This can come down even more if you tweak the TREFI, push that further. If you tweak a few of the secondaries, you can probably bring that down to 52 or 51. That's going to take some time, but I'm pretty chuffed with the memory. 48 gigabytes to perform like this is pretty impressive. So I'll quickly do a quick individual latency test as well. There's a benchmark section here. You can just go to latency and see where I rank with this. So when DDR5 first came out, the timings were very, very loose and the latency was very, very high. But now you can see I can top the chart, 53.1 nanoseconds, 48 gigabyte kit, CL40. So all of that throughput and still having a decent low latency is pretty impressive. So I'm pretty happy with that. The reason I went with the 48 gigabyte kit, one, it was the most cost effective. Two, because I do a lot of video editing, especially when you're making side-by-side comparison videos and dual layers, you usually have 3 or 4 or 5 layers on your timeline. it can really start to use up a lot of VRAM, a lot of system RAM. So that 32GB, especially when you build in 8K videos, it really just gets swallowed whole. So having that extra 16GB does provide my system with a little bit of headroom. So that's why I went with the 48GB kit. Trying to think what else I can show you guys. So that's just pretty much just a quick look at the 14900KS and some synthetic benchmarks. Just giving you guys a quick look at what it can do, what the temperatures are like. Of course, you're going to need a beefy cooling system to dissipate all this heat. As you can see, my hottest core was 86 degrees, but it's still pretty good. It's practically the same as my 3900K in terms of temp. So even though this is a really power hungry chip, you got a good cooling solution, it's not going to be an issue. So I'm going to show you some gaming now and see what kind of gaming temps I get while playing Cyberpunk. That's a game that uses quite a lot of the CPU while playing, so this should be a decent test. Okay guys, I'm just into Cyberpunk 2077 now. Just going to quickly show the in-game settings. So I'm only playing at 1080p because I'm only using my RTX 4060. DLAA is in use and frame generation as well. Ray tracing reflections is the only ray tracing element I'm using. And 90 field of view, and everything else is pretty much at the high setting. So far from maxed out. But one thing about this game, it's always been very heavy on the CPU. As you can see, I'm using around 120 watts. And temperatures are in the mid 40s. So, you know, everyone moaning about how hot the CPU is correct. But if you've got cooling that can actually deal with it, then there's nothing to worry about. This is why this chip's really for people that are enthusiasts, that are equipped to deal with it. Anyway, let's start a bit of trouble. Sorry guys, wrong place, wrong time. Police should be here at any moment. Take him down. Sorry, pal. Reinforcements are on their way. Let's steal this car and go on a bit of a joyride. Well, yeah, temps are perfectly fine.
Suspect has disappeared. All units on site, continue searching the area.
Come on, don't tell me the police have broken off the search already.
Civilian is unstable. Proceed with caution.
That's right, I'm a cyber psycho today.
Suspect's vehicle has been located. Details have been sent.
Yeah, I'm not running from you guys. I'm right here. Come on, get out the truck. So you like my shotgun. Come on, is that all you got? This is all NCPD has to offer. Oh. Okay, I think I may have beaten off a bit more than I can chew. Luckily for me, I got the second heart. I want to use it to escape. I better get out of here. They don't seem to be chasing me. Oh, here they are. Mowing these guys down. Yeah, time to get out of here. 5 stars now. They're gonna call all of their best guys, even max tag, and when they come, it's pretty much over. Hey, Valentino's one apiece. Fine with me. I'll lay you guys out. No chance. These don't seem to be interested anymore, so I guess that's a good thing. Let's grab this car and get out of here. For some reason we can't steal this. Unfortunate. Okay. Coast is clear. So anyway guys, just wanted to give you a quick look at what temps are like on a gaming scenario, and that doesn't seem to be an issue. That's pretty much it for me. Just a quick look at the 14900KS. Certainly not for everyone. Does provide a bit of a boost, not a massive boost, especially if you're coming from a 3900K like me. Can't expect too much, but you do get a nice little 400 megahertz increase in terms of boost clock. In my case 500 megahertz because I've overclocked it to 6.3, and a 5.9 gigahertz all-core is pretty nice as well. Okay, we got a gang fight here. Didn't even notice this guy here. Look at me helping out the law. Man, it's laying these guys out. I think that's all of them.
Don't even want to find you.
Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.